But in the meantime, let's go find this Google form thing so we can grade our arc. All right. So this is our main feature for tonight that we're going to do. We're going to grade Voyager Part 1. What is my ops level? Well, I'm currently still in that 50 to 54 range, and I am on a US-based server. I also play on an EU server. I could do this a second time on my second account and do it from that point of view, which maybe I will later. Alright, let's start with the officer grading. Let's move this out of the way for a second. So he says, I remember DJ talking about one of the crit damage values happening after everything else, so it was a net increase, but that's it. That would make sense that... Oh, Carissa, thank you very much for the Twitch Prime renewal for month number 3. That would make sense if, like Denver was thinking too. That I believe that is how it works, is that you come up with your damage total, and then hull breach, if it's on the target, you hit for 150% of it, so you get that extra bonus. Let me just move this minor. Okay, now, for those of you asking where they can find the form, I'm going to put the link in chat. This is the grading rubric that Rev Deuce and a couple of his pals put together to try and create a very universal, standard, consistent form of feedback that we could then, he can compile all the data together and take it in his secret closed door meetings with the dev team and say, hey, here's what you did last month based on 300, 500, 1,000, feedback surveys that we got. Take this data and run with it. So, all right. So our 2 new officers this month. We've got the Doctor. When you take hull damage, increases your deflections and stuff like that. Okay. Officer ability, okay. Below deck ability is what most people want him for, because he does increase your resource payout. Overall, it's kind of it starts off fairly low. I should probably just do this in stfc.space because, well, it's easier to see there. And since this version of the site is still working, let's do that. I apologize for the glare. Let's see. There we go. We'll put it in dark mode. So his increasing your mitigation for 2 rounds scales up fairly well. Not sure you'd want to use him for that, but who knows? Maybe there'll be a crew somewhere down the road where you'll want to use the Doctor on the bridge. But for the most part, you're going to end up using him down here in a below deck slot where he's going to increase your resources dropped by an extra 20-30% for most people, 15 to 20 to 30%. If you can get them to 35 or 50, good luck. I mean, unless you're buying multiple copies, this is probably going to take 2 years based on previous sourcing patterns before we get to these final tiers. But in a below deck slot, especially on a ship that has 5 or 6 officer slots, he's got pretty good value. It's just going to come down to what the sourcing is. And then the other officer that we have is Balana Torres. And she's boosting your penetration for the rest of the round. So she's only for 1 round, so they have to hit you first, basically, for this to trigger. So if you're fighting a thing or you don't have many shots and you shoot first, she's very subjective in terms of what ships and things like that and how she's going to work. Her below deck ability, a chance to apply hull breach from the below deck spot, which would then free you up and make sure you wouldn't need to run Gorkon on those crews like we were just talking about when doing all that critical hit damage bonus stuff. You could just get it below deck from her ability. Would be awesome and would free up another bridge slot so you could use another officer like a Kang or Marcus or Charvanek to lower their mitigation even further. But it only lasts for the current round, which is kind of low. And the proc rates on it are pretty bad. So you're going to have to... Below tier 3, she's really not worth using. Because 10%, 15%, which is 1 out of 7, base 6.5. 1 out of every 7 rounds, she'll apply Hull Breach. That's not really worth a slot there. 30%, that's 1 out of every 3 rounds, 3 to 4 rounds. That's a little more reasonable to actually count on happening. And then if you get her up high enough and it's like every other round or a guarantee every round when you have her maxed out, she's going to have tremendous value. But that's a down the road thing, so... I don't think, looking at the grading survey here, what are we talking about? We're talking about no officer is a must-have, but any would be nice to have and upgrade eventually. Are either of them must-haves? Like you're going to spend money buying them and upgrading them right now, today? I think that's the other part of the problem, is that both of them at tier 1 are not very good. The Doctor's better than B'Elanna at tier 1. B'Elanna's not really useful at all until tier 3. So she's out. Is the Doctor a must-have? Yeah. You guys are saying C. Sounds like a C. Sounds like a C. Yeah. I think we're going to go with the C. Both seem like good officers down the road, but they need to be higher tier to be effective and reliable without a sourcing path that makes it hard to be excited about them, which I think is a fair assessment. What's next? Feature grading. So what's our features this month? We have Formation Armadas and the Artifact Gallery. Okay. Formation Armadas. I like the concept of having the little tri-wizard, you know, as DJ likes to call them, the tri-wizard armadas, of running the group simultaneously. It's a group effort that gets 12 players from your alliance involved, potentially, up to 12 people, as opposed to just 5 or 6, most likely getting into a standard alliance. So I like, or armada rather. So I like that aspect of it. I like the fact that the timers sync up so they all go off at the same time. So that concept isn't bad. The sourcing for the directives being like 15 per day, which is like 7 a week, is kind of slow. So that's probably a C. Formation directive sourcing is a little slow right now. So again, the access to that feature is limited. So there's that. What's after F? Formation Armadas. That's what. Static size being independent of ACC. Building level is a fumble. Mike's Joystick says another Armada with slow sourcing and more research. That is a slow drip due to directives. Nothing new to see here. For sure. As for the actual artifact gallery itself, I like the artifacts. I like the number of them that there are. and the way that they source and the different benefits and bonuses that they give. However, it does take a very long time to source them and level them up, and the quality of the bonuses that they give is not the greatest. If we go into the artifact gallery real quick and we take a peek around, also, you know, the 3-day cooldown on these things also kind of limits the feature considerably. So the 3-day cooldown is too long. That should probably be like a 48-hour or 46-hour cooldown instead. And then also, you know, all of the different benefits and things that you have on some of these commons, these are already things that have so many other things like research speed, building speed, protected cargo. It's like, yeah, it's nice to get more of it. We always want more of it because even with the 7 other things that we have, everything in this game still takes a friggin' year and a half to do. Upgrading my ops was 747 days to go from 52 to 53. Something like that. Something crazy. Like, that's what it was. Just the base value was like 745 days. That's with all the research I have already. That's 2 years. If I just hit the button and we're like, I'm just going to wait until this is done. 2 years later, it would be done upgrading. It's just a ridiculous number to begin with. So the fact that these artifacts improve existing values is nice, but again, I feel like this is a C. Could have been better, does not detract from the game. Yeah, I don't think they take away anything from the game. They're just there. You can just ignore them. None of them are a must-have, a must-do. They're not required for any like daily loops to get currency for something that you need. Like, you have to do Borg kills if you really want the benefits of everything that comes with it, the faction credits and all that other stuff. If they suddenly made, you know, like if you had to do expansion cubes, if that was the only way to get nanoprobes to do your daily refinery was from doing expansion cubes, we would hate it. So 3-day cooldown on artifact pulls is too long, and the buffs are minimal even at some of the highest tiers when compared to the other researches that modify the same value. And what I mean by that is, again, if you look at Picard's fossil right here, what are we adding to? Increases base protected cargo for ships. Even at the highest levels, if you were to get this thing all the way maxed out, you're pushing it up 150%, and that's at level 20. Like, that's the best this is ever going to give you is 150%. You already have things that add that level of protected cargo. Like, go look at your treasury. Protected cargo on your treasury is already 100%. At least a minus, you know, depending on where you're at. 150%, you know, you can get your protected cargo up by the time you're level like 30. It's already at 60%. And by the time you're realistically doing this kind of stuff, if you're in your mid-30s where the average player is, you're getting 75% to your protected cargo already just from your treasury. So the fact that you'd have to, you know, source and find and grind out hundreds of these shards to get another 60, 80, 100% added to that value, it's kind of limiting. So Denver says that the epic artifacts have insane bonuses for free-to-play. These do have some nice, you got 70% damage bonuses, boosting damage against players. 110% just to start. This is the nice one, the ship part efficiency one, but we just released 2 primes in the last 60 days that also affect ship part cost, so okay. This is a nice one with the Katinga here, lowering the oh wait, we just released a prime that does the exact same thing there too, didn't we? And both of those primes start at what? For the $100 pack, you get 150%, 140% right there, day one. So to try to source and grind 100 parts of one of 6 epics, like how many packs are you opening to try and get these? Because you can't buy them individually, right? They haven't started selling them all one by one, where you're like, I'll just pay $1,000 and get Scotty's Trident maxed out. Like, that's not a thing yet. So instead, you're just buying pack after pack to try and get ship part efficiency up to 700%. That's exactly the total that the new Prime gives too, isn't it? It's the exact same total, right? But how many shards are you going to need to get to level 20 cumulatively? And how long is it going to take you? Because, you know, with the sourcing for some of these things, you have to be, it's based on your ops level. So you can't even pull them if you're a lower ops level player. The only one you're going to have is like the Grand Nagus Scepter. What's my drop rate? 25% chance of getting an epic? And there's 6 epics in here. So most of the time I'm not going to get an epic. And then if I do, I only have a 1 out of 6 chance of getting the one that I want. And then I need to do that 100 times just to get the first level unlocked. It's going to take forever to do these things. These things are just going to be something that you're just going to do in the background for the most part, and you're going to be like, oh wow, I finally got that. Because there's no way to hit the epics directly yet. You can target by the type of armada that you do. Jules and the guys put together a handy little drop chart. So depending on the level of the armada that you kill, different uncommons and rares drop from those. So you can target some of the lower level ones. But if you want the epics, I mean, it's like, how long is it possibly going to take you to source these things? So they're going to take Scopely, hold my beer. Absolutely. You know. Retro says, with luck, 1 start per week. So on premium pull per week, you get 1 artifact per pull. So 100 weeks at best to unlock 1 epic if you get the same one with every pull. Pretty much. I can't see what's in here because, well, my cooldown's still up. And there's no little button there to look into them, which is also sad. So I think the artifact, again, they kind of intended it to, that they would release it slowly and then people would want to buy to accelerate it. And I feel like that has really just made people kind of realize that it's just going to take forever and it's not going to be all that exciting to go after and try and get. So you only have 4 in your premium. That's true, Denver. Depending on what ops level you are, you will have fewer choices in your pack, which may improve your odds slightly of getting one of the better ones that you want. But that also means then that you're stuck there, because if you want to, you have to stay within that window. Because if you continue to level up, you're just going to dilute that pool even further. So we're going to give that a C, and we're going to give the overall feature then a C. All right, what's next? The event calendar. How do we feel about the event calendar? I feel like the calendar had a pretty decent amount of events. I feel like there was a pretty good job of overlap with those too. And that the events, like, you know, it wasn't like go out and kill 7 different things. It was like go out and kill the same thing, and that would complete 2 to 3 events at a time. Like, there was a really good synergy and overlap between events this month. And I feel like I kind of want to reward that. If you like Armada events every day, well, there were a decent number of those too. I think we're going to give this a B for that, because excellent job with overlapping events. So the same target scored in multiple areas. Calendar was a little Armada heavy, which did detract from overall accessibility. Yeah, the rewards were pretty decent. Yeah. And again, I do want to make sure to point out that the Arc Runner did a pretty good job with syncing up events. That was pretty good. Communications. How did Scopely do in terms of communication? Did we have any real major hiccups during the arc this month? Let's go to the official page and take a look back. Oh, that's right. That's right. So, all right, so what errors did we have this month? Well, first off, they reached out for feedback and they changed the formation Armada times. So that was really good. We did them for the first couple days. They said, hey, players, what's going on? We said, hey, 15 minutes is too long. And they lowered it to 10 minutes, which was the overwhelming favorite. It was the lowest they would consider going was 10 minutes. It was 15, 12, or 10. And they responded pretty quickly and got that change mid-month. So that was a good change, and that was good communication on their part. Then we had some issues with the solo Armada events, where only one ship was scoring on the solo Armada events, and only the weakest ship was scoring. And that took a little while to trickle that communication out. That was at least a few hours before it was noted that only one ship was scoring, which was then later updated in the tooltip. But even then, it wasn't clarified and made clear that it was only the weakest ship that was actually scoring. So that could have been handled a little better. They did the changes to the artifact gallery, and then we had the blog post where it said about some other hot fixes that they put in mid-month, where nobody understood that they actually fixed La'an and Barclay and their abilities because of some unrelated research that was somehow throwing off the calculation of what their values were. And I don't feel like that was overall the greatest. Hey, Luis, welcome on in. Uh, give him an F just like for STS. And then there was the other announcement as well where they thanked Ripper for all his hard work and service. You know, and that they do have plans on making sure that the website does sort of stay up and resumes its normal functionality sometime soon, yada yada. But that's nothing to do with the actual arc or anything in between of that. That's a completely independent topic. So we're not going to count that. We're only going to focus on stuff that's actually related to kind of what's going on here. So in terms of where they fit overall, it's kind of like a B minus, to be honest. Because they got information out quickly, but the information that they were providing wasn't as detailed or as clear and concise as it needed to be. So, Hey Belair, hey Nuts, welcome on in everybody. Those of you just joining us. Graphics, welcome on in. So I think we're going to give them a C. There was some timely communication on issues that occurred. That's not right. That doesn't look right either. However, that information was incomplete, pointing out that only one ship scored for solo armadas, but not mentioning that it was only the weakest ship scoring. Or saying we fixed below deck abilities, but not being clear how that related to La'an and Barclay. For example, Luis, we're currently filling out the end of month grading survey, which you can do yourself if you also are interested. For those of you who want to do that, there's the link to the Google form that Rev Deuce and his compatriots have put together. You can fill out your own survey, give your own scoring and feedback for each of the features and parts of the arc this month, so that way they can give the feedback to the dev team, and they can try to either do similar things, do better things, never do this type of stuff ever again, etc. So the only thing that annoyed me about the events, the Doctor's heroic SMS was not pre-announced and was in the second run. People naturally went hard on the first one, found themselves with fewer mats when it ran. Yes, that was a mid-month pivot. It was not supposed to be that way. They were both just supposed to be the standard SMSs, and based on people sort of saying, I guess, feedback that they wanted the Doctor and they wanted more opportunities to earn shards for him, they went ahead and changed the event mid-month and just added a couple additional levels to that SMS. Should they have communicated it sooner? Yes. They should have communicated that when they decide to make the change. Their answer to that is going to be, well, we didn't know until like the day before that we were even going to do it. Because they always seem to be flying by the seat of their pants, and things are always right up until the last possible minute. You know, what's that? The event starts in 10 minutes. Okay, have we figured out exactly what our point scale is going to be? Okay, let's make that live now. Like, this is their biggest area of shortcoming, is that they're always trying to do stuff right up until deadline, right up until everything goes live, instead of having this stuff figured out 2, 3, 4 days in advance and just sitting there in the queue ready to go. They're always working behind instead of working ahead. And of course, it was there as an extra incentive to get people to try and buy some packs, or buy some primes, or do some extra research or whatever. Of course it was there for that. No arguments here on that. Okay, so what do we got here? So this is the game stability is the final one here. So how do we feel like the game played overall? Were there lots of crashes and bugs? I don't recall any like offensive delays or anything like that in terms of lag issues, in terms of game crashes. I mean, you know, some of you will say, oh, my game crashes all the time, the friggin' thing's broken. Yeah, but that's nothing new for you. Your game crashes all the time for you. Whatever the case may be, it doesn't like your device. So we're not going to count that. But for the most part, I'm trying to think, like, did I have any, were there issues logging in and issues like that with the servers? I feel like for the most part it was okay. So I think we can give them a B there. Don't remember any real issues with server crashes. There were a couple minor spots of lag, but those typically cleared up in 1 to 2 hours. Luis, you're going to Best Buy for something. Okay, well, good luck. Hopefully it's nothing too important. There was one server that just outright crashed. That I don't... was there? I know they had issues with some of the APAC servers and Armada sourcing and stuff, but was there just a server that just died? Trying to think about. I don't recall anything about that, but maybe there is. So I think we'll go with that overall. And there you go. Submit the form on over. And we are done with our grading for the month. So yes, this is that was the RevDuce end of month feedback survey that we were just doing there.